So we're going to talk about our top 5 ways to cut feed costs today. So feeding your animals takes up about 70% of the overall cost of raising them. So it is a huge area to save you some money and make your homestead a little more profitable. So the first and easiest way to help reduce your costs is either free ranging or pasturing your birds, whether you be in chicken tractors, mobile coops, whatever works for you. It's kind of the least labor intensive way, but it's also not going to be your biggest savings overall because most breeds aren't going to be able to be fully self-sustaining free ranging. So another easy way is feeding scraps, whether it's from your own kitchen, your garden, your friends, your neighbors. Again, most small homes aren't going to be able to totally eliminate feed costs this way. It's a little immeasurable to know how much you're reducing your feed because it often differentiates between how much you can get for them and give them. In the summer, we tend to get a ton of scraps, whether it's from weeding gardens or produce from the garden itself. So a third way, and this way you'll start to see measurable results in the reduction of your feed costs. So fermenting. So it is a little bit more legwork doing this one. However, it's at least scalable to any size of operation. It is becoming a little more common in commercial broiler operations because they have seen the drastic cost reduction. The only problem is in a lot of these facilities, they're just too big to implement new systems without it costing huge abundance in changing out their infrastructure. We were fermenting last summer. Cam would set up feed tubs outside. It was warm enough that our fermentation process would go a little bit faster. So last year when we were fermenting grains for our birds that were kept out on pasture and free ranging in some cases, we soaked large tubs. We were outside. It wasn't so extremely hot or cold that it hindered the fermentation process, and we got beautifully fermented feed. So fermenting. This way you will see a huge decrease in the consumption of feed. So it's about 20 to 30% less that you'll notice your birds eating, which is because nutrients are becoming more bioavailable. The grains are already pre-soaked essentially for them. So it's easier to digest, but it's also more filling. It's a fairly easy process. We found we could ferment large quantities in the summer here by taking several totes, filling them, covering our grains with water, letting them soak 2 to 3 days, and just continuing this cycle. So we drastically reduced feed consumption. We found that any of the wasted whole grains still sprouted for us, so that creates more feed for our animals that are out on pasture, so that's an added bonus. But our animals did amazingly well. The grains are more bioavailable, they're getting all the nutrients that they need, and you're fully utilizing the products that you're buying. Right, if you're fermenting grains, you can also add in your feed scraps, you can add in lawn cuttings. There's really no end to it. You want to make sure that pieces are small enough that you're not going to end up choking your birds or causing issues with their crop being blocked or bunged up if it's soft or long grasses. But it is a great way to utilize your yard scraps, increase the quantity of feed that's available. One of the biggest ways to reduce your feed costs is switching from buying the small 50-pound bags and buying in bulk. So in some cases you can buy full pallet quantities of these 50-pound bags of feed and get a bit of a feed reduction, but because it's more labor intensive and feed companies pay for each of those bags, it's still going to be more expensive than buying a tote of feed at a time. So now most, whether you're buying directly from a farmer or from a feed mill, you will pay a deposit for your bag. Most will give that back to you every time you come back with a new bag. But you also don't have to buy a ton at a time in most cases. A lot of places will let you buy 500 pounds at a time, sometimes more, sometimes less. Now when we buy in bulk, we buy whole grains. So we actually get a 5-way mix from a local farm here. It comes with corn, field peas, oats, wheat, and barley. our animals do amazingly well on it, and we get whole grains simply because they store better longer. Once you mill your grains, that's when nutritional value starts to decrease over time. And you have to rush a little more to get it used up. Stored grains whole don't have that same issue. At least not fast enough that you'd have an issue with feeding it. So beyond that, another huge way, depending on your situation and how much land you have available or how much time you have available, is to grow your own feed. So this includes veggies, insects, certain weeds are hugely high in protein, and as well as grains and seeds. So some of those could be black oil sunflower seeds. They're easy to grow, they're beautiful to look at. Insects, you can get mealworms, you can get black soldier fly larvae, you can get crickets. A lot of those don't require much space, they're easy to raise, and again, a huge quantity of nutrients and proteins that are great for your animals. Some things to look at are stinging nettle and comfrey, both which run about 30 to 40% protein. A lot of people see as weeds because of how easily they grow. I know we have pastures full of stinging nettles here that we can cut and take advantage of in the summer. Any extra veggies that you grow, mango beets used to be a huge crop that was produced for livestock because they store well, fairly good nutritionally, and they're high in fiber, so in some cases you don't want to be feeding too much, but the greens as well are higher in protein and higher in nutrients, so you kind of get 2 for 1 there. So let's talk about the actual savings. So for us, 17% layer in our area, the numbers for you, and then we're going to talk about our biggest savings. So this is something that's not necessarily available. In every area. It is becoming more widely available across Canada. I haven't really looked into it in the US as much, but we'll get to that in a minute. It's something that in some cases has completely eliminated our feed cost over the winter. And we raise about 200 birds right now and 6 pigs. So we actually haven't had to buy any feed whatsoever for our pigs in the last 6 months. So let's get to the real numbers. In our area, kind of the cheapest layer ration that you can get, a 17% layer ration. It is not non-GMO, non-soy, or organic. This is just kind of the basics. It's $18.95 for a 44-pound bag. So that works out to 43 cents per pound. And now when you're trying to reduce your feed costs, the biggest thing to look at is your per pound cost. It's easy to look at a bag and go, oh great, it's under 20 bucks, that's a great deal. End of the day, it really isn't. So your average chicken is going to consume about 1/4 pound of feed per day. So with this 17% layer ration, we're looking at $39.24 per year to feed one bird. Now that's not looking at any spillage, spoilage, or anything else that might go on to increase those costs, but we're going to keep it easy and go $39.24 per year to feed our birds this 17% layer ration. So let's look at the cost of bulk whole grains. So right now, these prices fluctuate a little bit, but our current pricing from the farmer we go through, he's about an hour away, is 23 cents per pound. So already that's a 20 cent per pound savings, which is huge. So working that out the same way, 1/4 pound per bird per day equals out to $20.99 per year for one bird. Now, let's take into account fermentation. And we're just gonna take the 30% less they're eating because of the fermentation. Allie. So that brings us down with buying small 44-pound bags to 34 cents per pound, or $31.03 per year per bird. So now let's look at fermenting our bulk feed. That brings us down to 18 cents per pound based on the savings and reduction of consumption. That brings us down to $16.43 per year. So these numbers, it doesn't seem like a huge savings with one bird. Most of us don't have one bird. So looking at these numbers, if you have 10 chickens, switching to buying in bulk alone can save you $182.50 per year. Now, if you don't have the capacity or really just don't want to buy in bulk, still buying in a small quantity but fermenting your feed can save you $82.10 per year. Doesn't seem like a lot, but at 10 chickens, you're probably not going to be making money off your birds, so it is a huge savings over the course of a year. Now, let's look at fermenting our bulk feed. With 10 birds over the course of a year, that saves us $228.10. That's getting pretty big. That with 10 chickens might make getting your own eggs a little more feasible. If you're selling a few eggs here and there, you might actually be able to cover your feed costs. Now, let's jump up to 50 chickens. Same thing, switching to buying in bulk can save you $912.50 per year. Fermenting with your small quantity bags, $410.50 per year. Now, fermenting with bulk feed jumps up to $1,140.50 per year that you could be saving feeding these 50 chickens. Now, these could be layers. Savings would increase more with broilers because of the feed consumption. And overall, it can actually bring you from raising small flocks of meat birds to actually being profitable if you're choosing to sell a few of them. Now, let's jump to 100 chickens, because if you're looking at broilers and you raise any for profit, odds are you don't just have 10 or 50 chickens. Switching to buying in bulk alone, so pretty easy switch, doesn't change much of your labor or any of the infrastructure you already have, not adding any extra work. You can save $1,825 per year. Fermenting with your small quantity bags, you're looking at saving $821 per year. Now, fermenting with your bulk feed, you're saving over $2,000. You're looking at $2,281 that you could be saving per year with 100 chickens. So that's a pretty huge savings. Now, for us, with raising about 200 birds, we have them in various stages, whether they're in our breeding pens, they're grow outs, they're chicks, they're kind of all over the board. We have some geese in there, some ducks. So these numbers aren't 100% accurate for us, but just based off chickens alone, we have a savings of $4,562 just by fermenting bulk feed. So that's what we do during the summer when it's easier for us to ferment because of the temperatures. It's harder for us right now in the winter because we just don't get the temperature we need for the grains to ferment properly. We don't have an insulated barn where we keep most of our breeding stock, so feeding grains that are that wet, they just freeze up on them. It's not a very easy method for us to incorporate during the winter months. We will switch back to that in the summer here because it is a little more feasible. Now, just switching from the smaller bags to bulk feed, so not adding in any extra labor. Now, let's look at just switching from the smaller bags to buying in bulk. That alone can save us $3,650 per year on 200 chickens. So that's huge. Like for us, I mean, we both work outside of raising our animals and livestock full time. That savings is huge for us, and that's where we can be profitable in selling our chicks. Let's get to how we feed our animals for almost free. So we joined something called the Loop Resources Program. It started in Western Canada. It's moving across the country now, and it's absolutely amazing. So this organization has partnered with grocery stores across the country. So every day grocery stores are throwing out food, whether it's because of spoilage, excess that they've ordered in, or expiration dates passing, or just not meeting the quality they want to see sold. So now what this program has done has partnered farmers up with these grocery stores. So in our each day of the week, a farmer goes to the store that we've been partnered with. Our pickup day is Sunday. So we go down to Calgary every Sunday and we pick up our feed. We get hundreds of thousands of pounds of feed every week. There's often stores that we will sometimes double up on a pickup day to get a little bit more, and we bring that home. We end up with meat for our dogs and barn cats. It's not legal to feed meats to livestock in Canada, and that's something that you're going to have to check with each state regarding scraps. Some don't have any regulations against it, some require you to heat treat it, and some don't allow it, period. But anyway, so for us, there's a ton of barn cats around, we've got a few dogs around, works great that way. We often end up with a lot of dairy, so milk, yogurts, cheeses. We use them, we mix it in with the vegetables that we actually send through our wood tripper to grind. Kate will come up.
We're stuck.
We send our vegetables and fruits through our wood chipper because it makes them easier for our chickens and pigs to consume. So we don't end up...
Oh.
So we don't end up with waste from peelings or vegetables that are harder for them to eat. And they actually get a better nutritional profile from the from the variety of animals, or sorry, from the variety of vegetables that make up their diets. So with that, I will sometimes, depending on what we have coming in, I'll buy soy meal. So because of the variety of vegetables and fruits that we get, we actually are able to offer a huge nutritional profile to our animals. So things like cauliflower are really high in omega-3s and niacin, which is wonderful for our ducks and geese. We do get a lot of cauliflower come in. It's kind of amazing the amount. We get a ton of spinach that comes in, so it's a 31% protein factor. Broccoli, you're looking at 29% protein. Kale, you're looking at 22% protein. Like, these are all amazing. Now, keep in mind they have not been dehydrated. So those numbers are based on dry matter. So we do supplement a lot of our feed with some soy meal, which is fairly readily available in our bag or area. We pay $24 a bag for it, and each bag lasts us about 2 to 3 weeks to feed 200 birds. So that's pretty amazing. So outside of gas, we're only paying about $24 every 2 to 3 weeks to feed 200 birds. That isn't something that we have to do all the time. We are coming into the spring now where our hens are naturally wanting to start laying more. So we are supplementing their feed for that reason. During the winter, we didn't add soy meal because it wasn't necessary. We allowed our birds to take a break. And they did amazingly well. The added bonus in a cold region like this is that there is a high moisture content in feeding these ground up vegetables and fruits. So where they didn't always have access to their water, because it would freeze throughout the day before they could get replacement, they were always getting some moisture in the feed that they were eating, so they were never having feed in their stomach dry. So that is a huge added bonus there. Even though it was moist when it does freeze, because it was ground up, those granules are easy to come apart, really easy for them to eat, and it breaks down quite easily. We've noticed so many health benefits with that from them having, well, we've hardly lost any birds throughout the winter. We did have some older birds that we lost. We did have the odd one that just really didn't know how to deal with winter weather and would not roost or what have you there. But overall, we're actually really happy with the situation that we've faced throughout some really cold days this year. Like today, it's minus 32 Celsius, so that's why we're filming inside instead of out in the barn. So some other vegetables or fruits or things that you can grow So comfrey we talked about, stinging nettle, you can plant patches of those. Even taking your grass clippings, we often take the grass clippings and we'll dump them right in with our birds. They love picking through them, getting all the little bugs out of there. Help spread it around, kind of mulch the area, allows everything underneath to grow for them. Spirulina, it's something you spirulina is something that you can grow in a fish tank, and it's something that we will likely do a video on in the future, along with growing duckweed. So it's another one, it's 40% protein, so a lot of people that are in warmer climates can actually grow this outdoors in ponds throughout the year. We do have it naturally grow in sloughs here that we can go collect in the summer. Last year we had far too many days that it was just way too hot. We didn't really have any of those standing bodies of water sitting around that it could grow in. But yeah, these are some of our ways. We'd love to hear what you do to reduce costs. And look for our future videos where we actually show you about raising insects to cut your feed costs. We'll take you on a trip to buy some feed in bulk. We'll do a video on fermenting for small amounts of birds. It's something as simple as keeping a couple jars of feed on your kitchen counter that you replace every 2 to 3 days. Feeding scraps, I think that's something most of us already do. That's kind of a given. And then free ranging and pasturing, it kind of depends on your setup. It's something that we really believe in when it comes to our birds, because we like our animals to kind of live their best chicken life or pig life or whatever life possible. It helps to reduce in parasite overload, prevent diseases, and just have happier animals overall. Yeah, so like our channel, like this video, follow us, and comment below. Thanks.